Om Shanti. Today we're going to be talking about how to stay awake. Conquest of sleep. One of the titles that Baba has given us is the Conqueror of Sleep. And there are many forms of sleep which are all connected with each other. And there are many solutions to the problems of falling asleep, which are also very much connected with each other. And there are different reasons why we become sleepy. And one of the simple reasons why you become sleepy is because you're tired. And why do you become tired? Is because you sometimes are not attentive about sleeping at the time when sleeping is to be slept, and then sleeping comes at the time when waking is to be done. So on one level it's really a lot to do with discipline. And the path of Gyan is also a path of discipline. It's a spiritual practice, and a spiritual practice has a great deal to do with discipline. And so if we sit in a disciplined way, that will also help. Nowadays we have nice comfortable chairs and cushions and everything. But in the early days, we would sit on the floor with no backrest, and for quite some time. And so, well, your knees would hurt you a little bit, but that would help to keep you awake. Maybe your back would hurt a little bit, but if you keep your back straight, then it's actually well balanced for your body. And sometimes people don't like it when it's cold. But actually, when it's cold, it helps to keep you awake. And any of you who were with me in California know how I used to keep the temperature rather low. And actually, it's quite good to keep yourself fresh when the temperature is a little bit low. Have you experienced that? So there's various physical things that we can do that do help. We normally expect that 5 hours of sleep is suitable for a practicing yogi. Sometimes people say, well, I have to have 8 hours sleep. And why is it that some people find 5 hours sleep fine, and some need a lot more sleep? Well, for some people there are some physical reasons. Maybe the body really does need some extra sleep, but a lot of the reason why we need more sleep, some of it has to do with belief. You know, that it's been said 8 hours sleep is necessary, so we believe that, and then we say, yes, I know I have to have 8 hours sleep. I never tried 7 or 6 or 5 because I know I have to have 8. And if by any chance I get a little bit less than that, then I definitely get tired. So part of that is in fact psychological. And so one good thing to do is to experiment with yourself and find out what really is the optimum amount of sleep that you need. Because one reality is that sleep is a way to escape many things. So sometimes people sleep in order to not face certain things. If you have physical pain, go to sleep. It won't hurt so much. But most people don't have that much physical pain on a continuing basis, so that's not always the case. many times we may have psychological pain, and for that, sleep is a way out. Emotional pain, sleep is a way out also. But as far as possible, I think that it's good for us to be able to say to the different forms of pain that come to us that let me see you clearly for what you are and face you and see what is your message, because usually pain is some sort of a message for us. And let the self use it as a way to become free. So if we sleep, then we don't actually settle the karmic account, but if we are awake for it and we apply our power of tolerance and our power of facing, then we can also, after some time, get free from that thing that creates pain. How many of you experience pain of one sort or another? Yeah, so pain is an issue, but pain is a great teacher, a very great teacher. And our threshold of pain actually shifts as we create a different relationship with it. We become less resistant to it and start to see it as a positive thing. Then we don't want to avoid it, as perhaps previously we wished to avoid it or resist it or somehow make it go away. But if we sort of accept it and look at it as something positive, it is positive that it finishes our karmic accounts. It is positive that it gives us some messages. And so there's very much one important area of staying awake, which has to do with our relationship with pain. And say, yes, I will be here, for my pain. I will be there for it, and I will see what does it want to tell me, because its messages are very deep and very good. And this also is a good thing, that as we become free from karmic accounts, our ability to remain alert and awake definitely increases, because sleep is also itself a form of paying karma, you see. Some of you may experience that you come to meditation, Amrit Vela for example, you come to Amrit Vela feeling quite awake and alert, and within a couple of minutes you're nodding off. And then as soon as it's 5:15 you become awake and alert again. Have you experienced that? Yes. How many of you experienced that? Yes, you see, there's something going on there. You see, because the Amrit Vela time is said to be one of the best times in which you can finish karmic accounts through yoga. But then if you fall asleep during the time that Baba has specially allocated for us to have that karmic account destroying yoga, and if we fall asleep during that time, it means that we're physically there, but that's all. And we're not there in a way that whatever it is that comes up, we see it, you see, because this lethargy of sleep steals over us, and then by the time it's 5:15 it's too late, you see, because Baba has given that time specially. And so one of the things that I do is always I sit on the floor, and a hard floor for Amrit Vela, and I find that's good. I find that if we create a comfortable place for ourselves, especially for Amrit Vela, you sit in a nice, comfortable, easy chair, and you just lay your head back on the headrest, you see, then how are you going to be awake? It's not possible. Because the time of Amrit Vela is a very subtle time. It's sometimes said that the very easy circumstances for coming into the most subtle consciousness is the time in between being awake and being asleep. So Amrit Vela is such a time, you see. And so try to create quite a physically disciplined circumstance for yourself during Amrit Vela. And though your body may say, well, we don't have to do this to ourselves, your soul can say, yes, this is true, but we're going to, because in this way it's going to help us to stay awake. So you have to have a dialogue with your body and get it to cooperate. Of course, there are some bodies that absolutely can't sit on the floor, but maybe in that case have a chair that doesn't have a backrest, or that has a small one or a hard one, I see. And these physical things do actually help. Though we're not hatha yogis, but a little bit of physical discipline is quite helpful. And then, as Baba has told us, we have to churn. We have to have something that we're going to think about in the early morning meditation. Because if you go immediately from sleep to meditation without giving the self something worthwhile to focus on, then that also is a little bit lacking in understanding about the way things flow. So we need to give ourselves some mental work to do, spiritual work to do, so that we create a stage that's very consciously created, and then to go deeper and deeper into silence, having created a very alert and mentally clear stage. That's also something that you find will be very good. And then the other place where you have a tendency to fall asleep is in the Murli. Yes? Who falls asleep in the Murli? You're not going to admit it, but I know there's a few, you know. So again, have the discipline of arriving punctually. This is something that Daddy Janki has been mentioning quite a lot, that it isn't very good yoga with the teacher to come late for the Murli. And if we have 15 minutes meditation before the Murli, then that is also good, because anyway, we need to clock up the 108 hours of meditation. And so each moment that we have that's given to us for meditation, especially in the early hours of the morning, is good for us to take good advantage of that. And then again in the Murli, sit with discipline, means straight, you know. Sit straight without leaning your head back, because when you lean your head back, it's just an invitation to Maya, which says, hey, you know what? If you want to come to me, do. I'm ready. But if you are alert, physically as well as mentally, then Maya will say, okay, I'll go to the other ones. And as you listen to the Murli, experience the practical meaning of each phrase that's there. Because this is a very, very good way to make the Murli go deep into the self and to remember it, to become the embodiment of the Murli. And each point does have its own meaning and its own stage of personal experience. And so when you give yourself that kind of work to do during the Murli, that's also very helpful. And depending on the kind of person that you are, the kind of soul that you are, select striking points from the Murli and note them, you see. So you have to be alert to look out for the striking points, because they come in very gently, very quietly. And whatever is the point that really strikes you, that's going to be the one that you will churn on through the day. And every Murli has points that strike different people in different ways. It may be an answer to a question that you've had. It may be a completely new point that you hadn't heard in quite that way before, you see. Because if we just listen to the Murli with the attitude that, well, I've already heard this many times before, then it's a very sluggish approach. And so we may not be sleeping physically, but then we may be sleeping intellectually, you see. And it's not useful for us to have a sluggish intellectual approach to the Murli. So it's important to look at ourselves and see what's actually going on within ourselves. And you may find that you come to a Murli and your mind is all over the place. Have you experienced that? You come and your mind is all over the place and it doesn't want to be concentrated and so on. So that means that you're having a particular kind of test of distractedness. A test of being in a mentally fragmented condition. And so just notice what's going on and then apply certain yuktis to make yourself focused. And sometimes it may be that there is a lot of fragmentation, but it doesn't mean that you say to yourself, well, I'm fragmented today, so that's just the condition I'm in, so I'll just have to ride it out. No, that's not necessary. We can say, okay, yes, I'm fragmented today, so therefore I need to make very special effort to listen carefully to the words that are being said. And there are different tactics that you can use. For example, in your state of awareness, you can be more externalized, you can be more internalized. There's one stage that you can have where you're very consciously listening to each word that's being said in such a way that you don't forget the words and you keep your attention on each sentence and you keep up with the sentences as they are spoken, so that you don't get sort of left behind. You're busy thinking about the sentence before and then the next sentence you miss. So that means you have to keep yourself up to speed. And there is a way of focusing yourself inside where you do actually keep yourself up to speed. And sometimes you can be very sluggish, so you're kind of lagging behind the speed of the Murli. So then in that case it's necessary to sort of push yourself up to the right speed. It's like if you are driving, probably many of you drive, and if you're driving on the freeway and everybody's driving at a particular speed and you're driving 10 miles an hour less, you're going to cause a traffic problem. You see? So you have to keep yourself up to speed and alert. Otherwise this sluggishness, you see, is bad for you and bad for those around you. And it's also good to be aware that the further back in the class you sit, the less clarity you will have. It's a very interesting phenomenon. Of course, it's not possible for everyone to sit on the front seat, but it's definitely something that you can check out. The closer you are to the front, the more there is the atmosphere of alertness that's there. And sleeping people have a tendency to sit towards the back. So I don't know, those of you who are at the back, how you feel about this, but it is something that we have noticed. And also late arrivals and early departures is considered to be less noticeable when you're at the back. Actually, it's very noticeable, but anyway, that's okay. No one will say anything except me. Um, but yeah, there's something about the closer you are physically to the person who's teaching, the more likely you are to catch the eye. There'll be more eye contact. There'll be the atmosphere of those near to you who are more attentive. And naturally, if you're up close, you feel more participatory and more involved in what's going on. And the further back you are, the more you are like a detached observer. And sometimes you can be so detached that you actually float off into some other kind of thoughts. And then the valuable jewels of knowledge are missed, you see. So one aspect of sleepiness that I think is worth going into is this thing of body consciousness. One of the vices that is considered as one of the feminine vices, feminine insofar as it's more subtle, and that is laziness. You know, there's greed, anger, lust, attachment, and what's the other one? Ego. And so those are considered the gross vices or masculine vices. And the feminine vices are laziness, slander, fear, a couple of others. You will know what they are. I can't hear you. Huh? What? Jealousy is one, yeah. Huh? Depression? No, it's a different one. Depression is a vice, yeah, kind of. Lust is one of the gross vices. Anyway, there's 10, the 10 heads of Ravan that we have various lists of. So laziness is one of these key ones. And in fact, if you look at some of the classes of Brother Jagdish, he will say that there are 6 vices, the 5 main ones plus laziness. And laziness or lethargy or it's really a kind of negligence, a state of slowness or sluggishness. And it is very much an aspect of body consciousness, because when you're soul conscious and you lift yourself off of the physical approach to being and bring yourself into an introverted stage, you're resisting. A lot of the time you're resisting this magnetic pull of body consciousness, and it is not less, it's quite strong. So one has to just be willing and ready to resist those things. You can say body consciousness, and you can also say that it's a kind of an effect of accumulated negative karma or sin. You see? Because if you're really, really free, there's absolutely nothing to stop you being completely awake and alert. But these things that make us sluggish and lazy and heavy inside, you can't immediately identify what they are. Some of our karmic accounts, we can say, oh yeah, this is a karmic account, and this I'm experiencing this because I did this. Occasionally we can identify those things, but a lot of the time we can't. We just think, okay, I'm feeling heavy and sluggish and lazy, and therefore there's nothing I can do. That is one approach. And it is a form of settlement of karma, as I mentioned before, but it's also quite possible for us to resist it, to find a way inside one's mind to create a pose, a mental pose, where you do resist that heavy, sluggish feeling. And even though it may overcome you frequently, And maybe even during a whole meditation period or a whole class or a whole Murli listening period, you find the whole time you're just resisting the sleep. You can even consider that to be okay because you didn't give in to it. Because when something is happening like that and you don't give in to it, then that is considered as effort, and there's always some reward for making effort. And if you continue to resist your sluggishness and resist the heavy feelings, you will find that after some time it does go away. One thing that can sometimes help is food, Some people, they are allergic to certain kinds of food, and that will make them very, very heavy. And so it's also quite good because we have a lot of different food that we can have within Brahmin diet. And you'll find that some food is conducive to a light feeling, and some makes you feel very heavy, Sometimes if you eat and then you want to do some concentrated work, you can't do it because your food made you too heavy. Then there are certain times of the day where the body is more likely to feel light, and sometimes where it's more likely to feel heavy. And in fact, if you follow the Brahman way, or the Brahman discipline of the day, and like some people, they feel it's necessary to have some stimulant before Amrit Vela, but I have found that it's actually better not for me. It depends on different people, but if you have a lot of stimulation, coffee, tea, from that time of the morning, then you can't have a subtle stage, you see. But if you have good meditation the night before, and you just let everything go, and so that you have a very clean and clear mind, then your early morning meditation is correspondingly a continuation of that nighttime meditation. And then you're kind of food free pretty much until breakfast time. Sometimes some people have a few almonds or something like that, which is good for your brain. But as far as possible, we can train our body so that eating is something that happens after the mental exercises. It's better. And then the afternoon is usually a downtime. So this is why a little bit of sleep in the afternoon is good, and you'll find there are very, very few BK activities in the afternoon, because mostly everyone will take half an hour sleep, you see. And then if you have your 10:30 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. nighttime sleep, and then you have a half an hour to an hour in the day, then it's very, very comfortable, you find, to be quite awake and alert. A good thing is to create a very regular routine. But as you know, in Brahman life, there are all sorts of arrangements for keeping the regular routine, and then there are many, many things that break the routine. The routine can be broken for some special form of service or your work or something like this. But as far as possible, I find that it's very good to establish that traditional Brahman routine, which you all know very well what it is. And then whenever there are any breaks from it, Your routine should be so strong that you can bring yourself back into it quite quickly. I see. Suppose you get into a situation where really you are sleep deprived, and that can happen quite easily because many are looking after centers and doing jobs at the same time. And you may not have a great amount of stamina, and then you may push yourself to be able to do all of these things, and then you can get into an out of balance state, and then it becomes quite difficult to restore the balance. So I think that we also in this situation need to just look at the self and see if I'm getting sleep deprived, then where can I actually catch up with the sleep, you see? And you will find that there are many situations where Baba will provide us with quiet time. And in that quiet time, sometimes we feel, we have to generate something because we're not doing anything. But in fact, sometimes it's good during that quiet time to increase the meditation, to use the quiet time for meditation. Sometimes in that quiet time, you can actually restore your feeling of restedness or your sleep quota with just a small cat nap. Cat nap. You know how a cat goes to sleep for a couple of minutes and then wakes up again? That's a cat nap. And so you can have, 10, 15 minutes sleep. It's actually very, very restorative. And you may find there's a moment that comes during the day where you feel completely exhausted and everything about you is saying, no, I have to sleep. And even at such a time, you can take a cat nap and just lie down somewhere or sit down somewhere comfortable and just sleep. Even 3 or 4 minutes sleep can be enough to really freshen you up. And so allow yourself such little cat naps because they're very, very good. Some of us, on service, there's always traveling involved, you see. And so whenever you're traveling, sitting in a car or a bus or a train or whatever, it's perfectly good sleeping time, you see. So you can catch up like that. And just in between, catch up with sleep. And also in between, catch up with meditation. Because one of the things that causes the sluggishness is when your yoga is down. You see? And when the yoga gets down, then it's very important to just notice, Don't worry about feeling bad about it. It's nothing to feel bad about, but just something to notice. Oh, my yoga is down. I need to just make sure I really do the traffic controls properly. And I really do the times for meditation properly. And especially take good advantage of the evening meditation. The evening meditation, 7 to 7:30, though in very many places we also do from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock, so a couple of hours in the evening, because evening meditation is very good. It's a different kind of meditation from the Amrit Vela meditation. It's very, very good at the end of the day, to try to create your daily routine so that everything is finished by, 6:30, so that you give yourself a minute or two to change your position and ready yourself for a good meditation from 7 to 7:30, I see. It's very, very strengthening and restoring. And if you give yourself the good meditation, Amrit Vela, and the good evening meditation and all the traffic controls, then it's just about enough to keep your meditation ticking over. Ticking over. But it's not enough for a serious feeling of progress, I find. And so we need to create extra. And so you have to really look at your daily routine and see where you can create extra. You know, a little extra in the morning, a little extra in the middle of the day, quite a bit of extra in the evening is a good way, you see, because we feel better when we're progressing. If we do less than ticking over, then we're regressing. And when we regress, Maya likes to make us sleepy and likes to make us regress a little bit more, because the more we regress, the more difficult it is to get ourselves up to par again. And so we have to be very attentive on that. Dadi Janki often mentions that she spends 95% attention on the self and 5% attention on service. And if you look at her, you find that she is doing enormous amounts of service. But all of this is possible because of the very careful attention on the self. And so it's very useful for us to be able to make ourselves completely mentally free from any of those waste thoughts and waste concerns and considerations that take up a lot of our thinking time and interfere with our yoga, you see. If we think about what somebody did or didn't do, or we get into comparisons, or any of those things, it exhausts us mentally and it eats into our meditation time, so that by the time our meditation time is finished, we haven't actually started meditating because we've been so busy having various waste thoughts, all of which are completely meaningless because it doesn't matter anyway. And you're not going to do anything about it anyway. You know, isn't it? Is that so? So this is another thing that causes a lot of sleepiness, is waste thoughts, negative thoughts. You know, because if we have a negative thought, then obviously Baba is going to go and talk to somebody else. He's not interested in negative thoughts. And we can't just have 10 minutes negative thought and then just say, okay, well now I'll meditate, because Baba will say, sorry, not interested. You know, you don't do this negative thought. And so then we have to become free from the negative thought and then create some positive thought and then invoke Baba. And by that time, very little meditation time is available, you see. So we have to be very humble, I think, in order to be free from negative thoughts and waste thoughts, because they all come really from arrogance. Baba had mentioned in a recent Avyakta Murli that this problem of arrogance and this little statement of I am right. You know, we may not even say I am right, but the implication of our attitude is I am right. And then when we think I am right, along comes various waste thoughts, and it's a vocabulary of body consciousness or a vocabulary of false pride. And the question arises, why does it take us so very, very long to get the point? Do you ask yourself this question? It would take us years and years to get the point that, hey, you know, what I have to do is be soul conscious and remember Baba, and everything else is just drama. So we must use the knowledge of drama to keep ourselves free from having thoughts that are unproductive. You know, any thought that we have which is really pure and really going to connect us with Baba, is going to fill us with energy, and that means it's going to make us alert. Any thought which is waste or negative is going to drag us down, is going to keep us separate from Baba, is going to push us into body consciousness, you see. And if we sustain any of those thoughts, then what are we doing, you see? Ask ourselves this question, what am I doing? And as soon as we notice, just bring ourselves back into being attentive, being soul conscious, being connected with Baba, because nothing else really matters. And if Baba wants to get something done through us, he can do it very well when our meditation level is up to par. But if our meditation level is down, then we wouldn't pick up his signals so well. And we could get into the consciousness of I instead of allowing the self to be used as an instrument. So then this also contributes to a feeling of tiredness within. You see, so there are many, many things that definitely do get in the way. Then there are times when the karmic accounts really come into play very strongly, and they push you very, very strongly. So you must have experienced this. Maybe it's karmic account with some person, and you can't get that person out of your mind for one reason or another. Or maybe it's a karmic account through your physical body, and you have some very strong illness which pulls you down and which makes you sluggish and so on. So then there are certain things that you can do in respect of those things. First of all, I think it's very important not to take it personally and make oneself feel bad about it. Because if we feel bad about those things, that is the first step to giving up making efforts. So I think it's very useful for us to adopt an attitude of neutrality towards those things. Even sometimes Baba says, let your karmic accounts be settled happily. Be very happy that all of this ghastly experience is going on. Can you do that? You know? So on a physical level, it's a horrible thing going on, but then keep in mind, I am becoming free. It helps a great deal. You see, because if something bad is happening, and then we add to it by thinking this bad thing is going on, then it's going to drag us down. But if something bad is going on, even if, your head is very thick and you can't think, or you're very exhausted, or you have a lot of pain, or some raging vice is raging through your mind and body, or whatever it is, just be happy that it's finding a way out, And I am going to just be a detached observer towards this thing, and let it do whatever it wants to do, and let it take its course, but I will stick to my intention that this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing, and whatever it takes, and whatever the interference is, I will just ride it out and make it through. And that attitude is actually very helpful, because it's not good for us to succumb to things, or for us to just let things get the better of us. And sometimes we are inexperienced and we just don't know that these things will happen, and the purpose of them is to just ride it out. Sometimes it may be that through some Brahman, maybe even some senior Brahman, some horrible Maya comes to us, or some disillusionment comes to us. Ask yourself, in any condition or in any situation, why am I in this path? Why did I come into Gyan? I came in Gyan because Baba called the soul. And Baba called the soul so that the soul can understand things that were previously incomprehensible. You see? So that the soul can become free from distractions, from perturbations, from guilt feelings where there aren't any wrong actions done. Many people feel guilty even when they didn't do anything wrong. Have you experienced that? Yes? A lot of our conditioning is, feel guilty if possible. But Gyan doesn't say that. It says, yeah, if you did something wrong, you're going to feel it. But work it through and get on with things. So the more neutral we are towards these things, the better it is. Because if we allow ourselves to be brought down or brought into confusion by this thought, well, I don't know, am I okay or not? Who cares whether you're okay or not? You have to get that straight. It doesn't matter if you're okay or not. What matters is that you do what you have to do in order to get where you want to go. Whether you're okay or not is neither here nor there and make any difference to anyone. Did you know that? It's important to know. Because it's, each one for themselves. It's just I, the soul, in remembrance of Baba, and have good love and respect for the Brahman family, and do not be remotely interested in people's sanskaras, because that's their own affair. You do whatever you have to do in order for you to reach where you have to get. Because in a very real way, we are alone in this practice. It's just I, the soul, in front of Baba, and then my obstacles are my own. And then Baba has created this very beautiful Brahman family because it's a very good physical arrangement for us to move forwards in the context of the Brahman family and of centers, of learning how to work together, We can't expect the people that we are with to be the way we want them to be. They're always going to be some other way. That's absolutely a given. And it's supposed to be like that, because otherwise we will not learn how to be flexible, how to be respectful, how to appreciate the special qualities that each one is offering. And without the sort of clash with others, we will never find out what our false ego is. By ourselves, we wouldn't have any problem with our own ego, but it's in the context of others that it comes up. And so the Brahman family is also very helpful for these things. And even if all around you everyone is sleeping, which sometimes may happen, have you experienced that? You're the only one meditating and all the others are, a little bit heavy breathing and all that. So you can experiment with being unaffected by that, because definitely Baba has put us into this practice in circumstances of adversity. I see, this is useful to know that some or another adversity will be there. It's not that we do this in ideal conditions. Occasionally the conditions are ideal, but very rarely. Mostly they're not. It may be that, there's a lot of pollution, or there's a lot of noise, or there's a lot of other people sleeping around the place, or one thing or another. The public doesn't like you. Who knows? There's all kinds of various forms of adversity. But it's very important to just keep moving forward and understand that the adversity exists purely and simply as an opportunity for us to develop resistance to that particular kind of adversity. Because as the destruction gets closer, so the difficulties will be more, and the ideal circumstances for spiritual practice will be less. And so gradually we acquire immunity to noise, to other people sleeping, to not getting the comforts that we want, or interference of this kind or that kind. But whatever it is, you find that it increases your powers, I see. Especially the power of tolerance and the power to face. And when you have these powers, it creates a situation where you can be in good soul consciousness and good remembrance under pretty much any circumstances. And you find that also you're able to live with any soul with any sanskaras, and do service with any soul with any sanskaras. And it's just very, very useful to understand that whatever are the troublesome sanskaras of other people, look deep and find that there is something in it for you to learn, for you to get strengthened, for you to become more flexible, more compassionate, more clear about who you are and what you have to do, and more ready to allow others to be who they are. I think a big obstacle which comes in meditation and in Brahman life is that you try to make other people different than the way they are. This one should be like this one should not be like this. This kind of thought happens, and you will do some or another act or say some or another word which is an attempt to make them be different than the way they are, which of course they don't like. And that will increase your karma with that person, and that will increase your sluggishness, I see. It will increase the laziness, it will increase the tendency to say, well, I've done everything I could and now I just have to give up, And so all of these things, they need to be interpreted in a positive way, and then you will find that the many, many different things that conspire to make you sluggish, lazy, sleepy, slow, they get taken care of, and you find that you can be very gentle, very peaceful, very clear, very alert, and keep going without looking left or right, and just reach where it is that you have to go. So, Om Shanti. So I'd like to invite everyone for a half-hour meditation till 12:30. Turn your attention deep within. And feel the light of the soul clearly. You are completely separate from the body. The pure light of self-aware consciousness. All thoughts of the day-to-day are left behind. And you are aware only of your pure, peaceful self. You are alone with yourself. And you go deeper into your titles. I am the one with the third eye. I can see what is invisible to the two eyes. I can see the meaning of my life. I can see the eternal continuity of myself, the soul. I am the spinner of the cycle of self-realization. I see myself, the deity soul. Golden aged, brilliant, beautiful. So filled with the qualities of God. That I am a giver. Nothing is lacking in me. And I have everything necessary without limit. I am the deity soul in the deity civilization. Where everyone understands each other naturally. And in the middle period, my form becomes worship-worthy. The image of my perfected form serves. And benefits. And I am considered great. While I study and seek to retrieve that greatness, and in the end time, I am once again called by Baba to become again what I once was. I am a soul in freedom. A Brahmin soul. Living the most elevated life. I play my part with Baba. I cultivate my relationships with Baba. I explore the meaning of Mera Baba. And I say to Baba, I am yours, you are mine. Baba becomes all things to me. And then nothing is mine. No one is mine. And I am free to be Baba's. And so I go deep into the love of the ocean of love. Merged there, silently, peacefully, and securely. I merge in the ocean of light. Take power from the Almighty and fill myself with His love.